Daytona 500 beer crack. On Monday, Daytona 500.
That's right.
Welcome back to another episode of Stacking Dennys, second one of the season. William Byron in victory lane for the Daytona 500, followed by his Hendrick Motorsports teammate Alex Bowman. Triggered last lap crash triggered by, of course, Ross Chastain taking out Austin Cindric and us not getting a race to the finish. They called that race since the leaders took the white flag. William Byron awarded the winner, or the champion, or named the winner of the race. Christopher Bell, Corey LaJoie, Bubba Wallace rounding out the top five. Pretty exciting race. Again, Jordan McAbee. I'm Jordan McAbee of RotoBaller. Nick Giffen of the Action Network. You can find my content at rotoballer.com. Use code Jordan24. Nick's content over at fantasylabs.com for all DFS content, betting content, always on the Action Network, the Action app, and follow us both on Twitter. Nick, what'd you think of that Daytona 500? Even though neither of us hit that $1 million in the Millie Maker on DraftKings, what did we think of that race?
Yeah, honestly, as far as the Millie goes, I was pretty happy with my strategy. It obviously didn't work out, and I think I placed 67th out of. I don't remember what it kept changing, and I haven't even gone back and looked what my final top place was, but it was definitely in the top 100. So top 100 out of 100,000 people is really damn good, but it's not good enough. You basically have to, like we've talked about, basically have to win the Millie to make money on that. Obviously lost some money, but I think I like my strategy. As far as the race, I enjoyed the race. I thought it was a very good Daytona race, but I agree with the drivers that the fuel save thing is probably A, frustrating, and B, it made it a lot more tame overall, right? We only saw 5 cautions total, with one of them being the race-ending caution. If you hit that under 8.5 cautions bet with me, congratulations there, by the way. I know I didn't track that one in the Action app. I know there's been consternation about that, but that was more like, I think this is good value, but I don't have a model for it, so I don't really want to track it in the app or anything like that, even though I could have custom picked it. But a lot of us were on it. It made for a tame race, but an interesting one. Obviously, there wasn't a driver that led a whole bunch of laps. So if you also had the under 73.5 for most laps led by any driver, but that's just kind of how Daytona is. You're not really going to get guys that lead a whole bunch of laps, even in the tame ways, because we have all sorts of different pit strategies. We have different stages. And then, of course, everybody in stage 3 loses their mind anyway. And that was some hard ass racing in stage 3, even though they stayed green pretty much the whole time until 9 laps to go. That whole third stage was very hard racing, and I thought everybody, that did a really good job of keeping it clean up until super crunch time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, overall, obviously it sucked that this race got postponed Sunday or to Monday due to the rain, but we got the full race in. That was good. I'm glad that they called it early on Sunday. I think it was 10 a.m. when they said, "Hey, we're not racing today. It's going to be a Monday race." Didn't make people sit around all day when it was just going to rain all day. But as far as the racing overall, like you said, we had that early wreck that took out hosts of our Burton, Gralla, Austin Dillon was involved in it. But other than that, it was a very tame race right up there till the end, which we've seen with this car. So with this next gen car, I think it's partially to do with the car as well. But like you said, a lot of drivers were fuel saving there, and that added to just how this overall race played out. But what we're seeing with this new car is a lot. We're still seeing the big wrecks. We're still going to have those, but like your bet for number of cautions under, and like I bet the drivers to complete 100 or more laps under on 3.5. It's the same kind of mindset. Like, these are becoming tame races, even though we're still getting those big wrecks. But overall, it's still Daytona. It was still, we got Corey LaJoie getting his first ever top 5 at Daytona, which is awesome. He's been a super speedway stud in Fantasy NASCAR over the years. John Hunter Nemechek coming home 7th. Eric Jones coming home 8th. I know both of us bet over 1.5 Toyotas inside the top 10. There ended up being 4 of them in the top 8. So solid there. There were no Fords until Noah Gragson at 9th. Noah Gragson, top Ford. at Daytona, which Joey Logano, I don't think you can argue that Joey Logano had the best car in that race. That car was an absolute rocket ship. He got taken out. Kyle Busch had another very fast race car. Even when he had his tire issue with it not on, he drove right back up through the field, got to the front. So just some noteworthy things there as we move on to yet another pseudo speedway race this weekend at Atlanta. And even moving on to, the other Talladega and Daytona races later this year on who was fast. You want to know some guys that I also noticed were really fast that I like now heading into Atlanta, and additionally, like I said, Talladega and Daytona that did not get the finishes they deserve, and they're not going to get the love that they deserve probably from touts and everybody else playing DFS.
One of them, Jordan, I don't want to know. Gosh, of course I want to know.
One of those guys is, and the reason this sticks in my head so much is I was so heavy on him in DFS, and he had such a fast race car. Josh Berry, that 4 car was fast, and
I agree.
They got that penalty. Him and Priest got those penalties. They kind of got screwed there and got stuck a lap down. Didn't get the caution at the right time. Josh Berry had a really fast car, and I'm really interested to see what he can do at Atlanta. And same for our boy Todd Gilliland. He was up there. He was leading the race. Great. Yeah, Gilly looked great. Once again, had a super fast car. He got wrecked. Led 16 laps. I mean, that was third most in the race. Todd Gilliland led third most laps in the race. So very fast race car there again. Your Paul Menard pick of the week, Zane Smith, comes home 13th. I'm excited to see what those Spire cars are able to do at Atlanta this weekend, because that's a little more, and we'll get to Atlanta a little bit later and see where that goes. But yeah, Paul Menard pick of the week comes home 13th after starting 14th. But overall, like you said, I think you and I had very similar DFS strategies when it came to the Millie Maker, when it came to talent or Daytona. And I lost, I think, a couple $100, $200-$300 from what I played, but I was extremely happy with my strategy. And my main strategy, and I think both of ours main strategy, was being underweight on Ryan Blaney, just because he was going to be so high owned. And that ended up working out. And obviously, fading Logano, fading the top guys. And it ended up being, we did a live stream on Sunday before the race, or did we do it Sunday or Monday? We did it Sunday.
We did it Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah. Talking strategy, and it pretty much played out how we thought it was going to there with ownerships. And it goes back to our point last week of being able to predict other people and what they're going to do. These guys that started in the back, Noah Gragson was not as high owned as he should have been. Anthony Alfredo was not as high owned as he should have been. Same with Hendrick, Herbst. Hendrick ended up in the winning lineup, I believe. I think he ended up in the Millie Maker winner. Hendrick did. Obviously, Corey LaJoie, he got a decent share of ownership, but did not get a ton. So, it's still the lower named guys are still not getting the love, especially when you have high or big name guys there in the back. Yeah, the winning.
My ownership projections were pretty darn accurate. I know yours were too. It was we talk about it all the time. It's so much easier to predict ownership percentage than the race outcome. And with only 150 entries into the million, I say only because there's over 100,000 entries or around that. 150 is not a lot, right? It's a very small amount. If I could build 1,000 lineups, I feel like I would have ended up on the winning lineup for sure. It's just one of those things where of those, if I built 1,000, I can only pick 150, and then you just really shrink your sample size. So loved my strategy in the Millie Maker. Your strategy, I know I was able to see, when the contest started, see your 30 lineups there. I think you had something like that. But yeah, I mean, we both, obviously we had similar strategies, right? We play the guys in the back, we play the guys in the front a little less, and we pick one or two guys to get some leverage on. I know both of us were really low on Blaney. I know I was at least kind of heavy on the Toyotas at the front, which were, and when I say kind of heavy, I was still under on Denny Hamlin, but heavy compared to what I projected him optimally. So I went over the optimal on Denny Hamlin, but was still underweight on him in terms of compared to the field. But I just liked those Toyotas. I like Denny Hamlin. I like Eric Jones. And I liked even Ty Gibbs a good amount there. So my strategy was, of the guys starting up front, I was going to take the Toyotas. I was going to fade Keselowski, fade Ryan Blaney in the back, and pretty much just play everybody else from the back to the front in a decreasing percentage.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of, like I said, Daniel Hemrick was both of our projections ownership wise. I feel like we're really close. I think I missed on 3 or 4 guys that I was kind of, like 5% off, but everything else super close. Mm-hmm. Daniel Hemrick was 13.6% owned starting 37th in a college racing car at Daytona. Like, that's all I need to know for how dumb the majority of DFS players still are. Because he was my highest owned driver in all the lineups I made. Daniel Hemrick was my number
he was
1.
right up there for me. I don't remember exactly who was, but he was right up there in my top 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. Well over 30%.
Yeah, my top 4 was Hemrick, Gregson, David Reagan, Kyle Busch. Top 4 right there. So, like you said, I very happy with strategy. Very happy. I mean, I put 30 entries in the Millie Maker, so I knew I was going to lose that. But my other contests, I did just fine outside of that. So happy with that. Happy to move on to Atlanta and get Daytona out of the way. But Atlanta's a little bit more of the same.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like I said, Corey LaJoie got his first top 5 at Daytona. Surprising to say that. I thought he had one before that. He has 2 at Atlanta, 1 at Talladega. So he now has 4, all 4 of them at super speedways, or pseudo speedways. Did you hear his comments after the race in regards to the Hendrick wreck?
Yes, I heard and saw the comments.
Yeah, I didn't realize that those two didn't really like each other that much.
Yeah, I had no idea either until the comments.
There's no respect there. Yeah.
No.
Corey LaJoie just straight up saying we're not friends that was just something. I noticed that. So I liked it.
Pretty wild. Pretty wild.
Any other crazy takeaways from Daytona? Once again, Austin Hill won the Xfinity race. That guy is just
4-leaf clover up his ass, but no, I mean, honestly, the race kind of the Daytona 500 kind of went as expected. I figured there'd be under 8.5 cautions. I didn't think there'd be 5, but we definitely need to consider this extreme fuel saving aspect. But in the end, for Daytona or for a playoff cutoff race, which I don't think we're having now at this point, but I don't even remember the schedule here. Yeah, Daytona is not the playoff cutoff race anymore. It's Darlington, that is. But they're still going to be pushing hard as hell at Daytona, these guys that may have their last-ditch effort to win. So in these kind of crazier Daytona races, I wouldn't necessarily say Talladega, they're still just going to wreck at the end. Like, it's still just going to happen. It may just be later and later into the race unless things change with this fuel mileage stuff. There was a point in time where A.J. Allmendinger was catching a full 30-car pack because they were saving so much, and A.J. Allmendinger was by himself on the track, like gaining 2 seconds a lap on the pack. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
I liked it, though, because he was getting fastest laps, and I was heavy on him in DFS.
Exactly. I was heavy on him, too. And I messaged you. I was like, we're racking up a few fastest laps here, Dinger.
Yeah. He ended up with 12 fastest laps in that
Which
race.
is almost unheard of at this race.
Yeah,
it's
very rarely
on
do
the
we
high
see
side.
double digits. Yeah.
So,
other than that, Austin Hill, obviously, like I said, he won the Xfinity race. I saw a lot of comments about he deserves a cup ride and all this, and I don't see him as a surefire cup star. Like, I don't understand.
No.
There's a difference between being very good at super speedways and being talented enough
he's
to
good
be a cup
at
driver.
other tracks too. Like, he's won a couple non-super speedway races, but it's few and far between. Like, it's not like he's not like pulling like a Ty Gibbs or a Noah Gragson and winning 3 or 4 or 5 a year outside of super speedways. He's winning 1 or 2 outside of super speedways a year. So obviously right now he's the premier super speedway racer in the Xfinity series, but we'll have to see how if and how that translates to the Cup series, because he has had a couple Cup starts and they haven't gone particularly well, if I remember correctly. I don't have his results up in front of me, but I will say, so William Byron won, and remember who I picked to win on this show.
Yep.
I picked William Byron.
Getting that. And what's funny, I picked Chastain, who was also up there close to winning.
Exactly.
You start off the season with a win with the Stacking Dennys pick. And let's go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I had bets on both. Obviously, I forgot to track the William Byron one, and that's it is what it is. It happens. It was mine and Stevie, our victory lane pick. That is our combined pick. We both picked that. So if you're listening to this podcast and you listen to Running Hot, our victory lane pick means Stevie and I are on that bet. Both. Period. That is, it's always been the case on Running Hot, and so I definitely bet it. But I always have to wait a couple hours for the show to come out. We record it in the morning, comes out in the afternoon, late afternoon. And in that time, I can't track it because I don't want the line to move. I know as soon as I track it, the line's going to move. And I don't want the line to move before the podcast comes out, because then people will be like, well, you gave out a line that doesn't exist, right? So it's one of those things. Maybe I'll just start tracking them when we record it instead. And the only problem is then part of my job is to get listeners, to get viewers, to get whatever. And so if I nuke all the lines before the podcast comes out, there's no point in listening to the podcast. Or if I give all my picks in the app before the podcast comes out, nobody's going to listen to the podcast. So it's one of those tricky situations. And I just straight up, I tracked the 4 bets from turns 1, 2, 3, and 4 and just forgot about victory lane. So it is what it is. But I was definitely on Byron. I even threw a live bet on him, Jordan. I know you saw that I sent you the ticket that I threw live bet on. Problem is I couldn't track that either because I'm not allowed to track a line that moves. And my bet moved the line on William Byron. So I was able to track the Bubba one. My bet didn't move the Bubba Wallace line. I made a Bubba live bet as well when he was 30-1 late in the race there. So I had a William Byron live bet. I just couldn't track it. So, I had a fine day, but let the record show in the Action app that I was minus 8.2 units. One of those includes, and I know we'll talk about this, includes the Tyler Reddick bet I made on FanDuel that got canceled, but I'm still leaving it up in the app. I'm not asking them to delete it or anything. So, it's actually a little better than 8.2. Also, the book that I took A.J. Allmendinger top 5 at graded it as a win because he was originally scored 5th. Before they corrected it to 6th. Yeah, so, I mean, that was 9-1. That was a full unit. So I actually had a super positive Daytona 500. But if you're following me in the Action app, some of you did well if you hit the A.J. Allmendinger 9-1. Some of you did really well if you followed my untracked bets that were, the under 73.5, the ones that I kind of gave out, but I didn't want to track because, they're not really, things I'm modeling, so to speak. But maybe I should just start tracking them. I don't know. And then the ones I wrote up, I wrote up Hendrick Motorsports to win plus 450. That for me, it was not a bet for me. I didn't even bet that myself. I wrote it up even in the article, it said if you have not made a bet yet, this is some of the last value I'm showing. So make this bet. And I just didn't want to add to my card because I already had William Byron and Kyle Larson outright. So I didn't need to add the Hendrick bet because I had half of them covered. And then, the under 8.5 cautions, that kind of stuff. Joey Logano over 10.5. I did track that one. But you get the idea. I tracked some of these. I didn't track some of these because the finishing position, I have a model for it. I mean, that's the whole point of my projections is to project finishing position distributions, but I don't have a model to project, I guess I do for laps led, actually, but I don't have a model to project, number of cautions or that kind of stuff. So I just didn't track a couple of them and then obviously just forgot on the Byron one. But if you followed me, if you tailed my bets at the books I, tracked in the app, the Allmendinger one, I mean, technically I should have that graded as a win. I could go back and ask the team to grade it as a win. I'm not going to because the book I tracked it at graded as a win. So, and I'm leaving the Reddick, I'm making my record look as bad as possible. And I'm still up on the year. I've picked all 4 winners this year. If you count Byron, if you don't, then I've picked 3 of 4. But I mean, I gave it out on a podcast as my victory lane pick.
There's receipts. There's records. So speaking of, well, I don't want to get into William Byron yet. I have a few things to say about William Byron. It's actually going to be my part of my whine about it. So I'll keep it for that. But you mentioned live betting, and I was very surprised. I was watching the live betting lines during the race, particularly on FanDuel. I was watching, and we'll get to the FanDuel controversy here in a second as well. But FanDuel, I could not believe where they were keeping lines for guys running up front. I know you sent me your ticket of William Byron. You got him at like plus 3,250 or something, I believe.
35 to 1.
Yeah. So I was watching. I bet Hendrick live when he was up front with like 20 laps to go at 40 to 1. He was still sitting there at 40 to 1. William Byron was still 35 to 1 when he was up there after you sent me your screenshot. I stupidly did not bet it. Obviously,
well, it was funny because when I sent you the screenshot, I had bet it, and as soon as I bet it, it moved. So it 100% just moved on my bet. Maybe it went back at some point and I didn't see it, but that's why I didn't track it. I would have absolutely tracked it, but and I can't give the pick out because I don't have time to give. Like I can't run to my computer, type on Discord. I don't have Discord on my phone, so I can't like run to my laptop, type up on Discord or tweet it out or whatever. I mean, I guess I could tweet it because I have Twitter on my phone, but for me, I got to take care of myself first. I got to make the bet first, and as soon as I make the bet, the line moved. So it's just one of those shitty things. It's like whatever. But and again, I don't count that in my results. Like when I show my graph on the Action Network app, it's just the things I've tracked in the app. Obviously, if you followed me for long enough, you know I've won even more off untracked bets and stuff like that, and that's just how it goes. My official record is what's in the Action Network app, and I made it look as bad as possible this week.
But I was just surprised with FanDuel and really all these books how slow they were. Because typically they're pretty sharp on in live. So I'm hoping that this continues throughout the season. I don't think it will just because this was Daytona. Oh yeah, it'd be great for Atlanta. But they also, when Allmendinger went 2 laps down, they had him at 200 to 1. He got his lap back and then got the free pass to get on the lead lap, and he was still 200 to 1. FanDuel left him out there. So it was just it's very interesting to see how slow they were. But that's going to segue us nicely into this whole FanDuel controversy and what went on there. I think we might have a little different opinions on this. So for those of you that don't know, that didn't see everything being said on Twitter and spreading around, and if you weren't personally affected with this, I actually had a friend text me when Chastain was leading because he bet on Chastain. Now that he's a big Busch Light drinker, so he always just bets on the Busch Light car. And he texted me and he goes, "What the fuck did FanDuel cancel my bets for?" And I was like, "Oh," he's like, "I bet on Chastain and he's leading with 5 laps to go or whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, FanDuel's house rules state that if an event gets postponed and it doesn't restart or doesn't start within 24 hours of the scheduled time, all of the bets are void." And where this really hurt people was if they got early lines that were good. Or if they use bonus bets, FanDuel just voided those bonus bets and you didn't get them back. You're just screwed. Plus, FanDuel just lost a ton of money. And they did this because their house rules said they had to. And the only other book that had rules that stated something similar was Betfred, and they didn't. They kept all their previous bets on it, which I'm surprised because I could go. Like I bet Kyle Busch. You could litigate that. I bet Kyle Busch at 18. I could go back and say, "Hey, this should have been voided. I should get my money back." I'm not going to because I made the bet. I like the line. That's not going to be me. But for those that are mad at FanDuel, I understand that, and I understand that their house rules suck and they should probably change those. But in this particular scenario, they had to do that.
100% they had to. There was no question they had to.
This wasn't a question of could they not do it. Betfred is small enough that they could not do it and get away with it. FanDuel could not have done that.
Right.
So
I agree.
I understand people are upset at FanDuel. I don't think they should be upset at FanDuel for doing that, though. They should be upset.
No, I 100% agree
for
with
having those house rules.
FanDuel had to do what they had. They absolutely had to.
Yeah.
But obviously the frustration was the rule itself because it's a dumb fucking rule. Like it's just dumb. You mean to tell me because the race got delayed one day? Yeah. I get it if it's more than a week or like for me, the optimal rule would be if this race isn't run before the next race, we're going to avoid bets on it. Right. You know what I'm saying? That would be the optimal rule. There's some books that do 72 hours. There's some that do a week. It doesn't matter to me. we've never had a race run more than 72 hours after just from weather. You know what I mean? The only maybe other times it's happened has been like COVID or 9/11 or what, like insane batshit situations that rarely come up, which makes sense to void them then. But those have all been, if they're more than 72 hours, they've also all been more than a week. So it's like, okay, let's just, like, the 24 hours is dumb. We get rainouts all the time. And, it's just a bad rule. And FanDuel is probably kicking themselves because they lost all their handle. All of it. Voided. All of it. And, especially with William Byron winning, he wasn't one of the 3 most bet guys, at least from BetMGM. I assume it was probably similar with FanDuel, etc. Mm-hmm. Like, they lost money. They may have made money off the bets they did end up taking after reopening lines, but they lost money because they probably voided millions of dollars of bets. Obviously not Super Bowl amounts, but hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars of bets. I don't know how much handle they take, but it's certainly their biggest race of the year. It is the single biggest race that will be bet on for NASCAR this year. And they had to void all of it. And then only take bets for a day, less than a day. And then on top of that, people don't want to bet with them after that because A, they're pissed, and B, when FanDuel reopened lines, they reopened them with the highest hold out there. And we made sure to tell people, this is a 33 point whatever % hold. This is the highest out there and a full 8% higher than BetMGM, than Superbook, than Circa, and Circa even got down to 20% hold. So it's like, and I don't care if you don't have Circa or Superbook. Like, if you have BetMGM, that's 8% less hold that you're betting into than FanDuel had. And, obviously they had to do it to try to recoup money because they had to void all their handle. But at that point, the way to entice more bets would be to do like Circa and have a 20% hold. I don't know. It's just, I think there's going to be some changes there around the NASCAR rules at some point in the near future with FanDuel, I would bet.
I would hope so. Hopefully they're smart enough to realize what happened there and then change it. But I'm also not confident that they are because of just everything that FanDuel does. I feel like is just dumb. They have a great user interface. Their app is awesome for casual bettors. And a lot of my friends use FanDuel just because of how easy it is and how fun it is to watch. Like they were the first one with the moving when you bet props and making it actual kind of fun to watch if your bet was close to hitting. So they're great at the actual user interface of their app, but some of those policies are dumb, and it's going to turn away a lot of experienced bettors unless obviously there's a crazy good line on FanDuel. You're probably going to go bet somewhere else. And I personally, I never really bet with FanDuel. Like, I rarely bet with FanDuel just because their NASCAR lines really aren't that great. So I could probably count on one hand how many FanDuel bets I made last year. So
sometimes they have good lines. Like, they had the best line on Reddick, which of course ended up getting voided. It just depends. It's always different at different times of the week. And like last year, this is my other gripe with FanDuel. Remember last year they offered a driver to win, not to win 2 stages or more, you know what I mean? Or starting position of winner, or all sorts of these cool props. They didn't have any of those this year. They ended up having a bunch of specials, which were just like essentially top 3, top 5 type parlays, where they just juice the fuck out of it and only offer a yes side and not a no side. And they were all terrible bets, like all of them. Just nothing you should ever bet. And so I want FanDuel to bring back what they were doing last year, because they actually had some fun prop bets. They actually had some good lines. And, I really enjoyed betting with FanDuel at the beginning of the year last year and through part of the season. And I always bet with them when I can, when I have the best line there and stuff. But those race specials or whatever they were, those were all garbage. Like, I did the calculations on a couple of them, and it was, they were saying 290 to 1, and I had it in like the 5,000 to 1 range or something. It's like, you just can't bet these.
Yeah. And then there's the aspect of them being the official betting partner of NASCAR. Like, Caesars, I believe, had the best props, everything for Daytona. They had a ton of offerings. Superbook had over-under finishing position, though, on particular drivers. Still pissed off about that because I had Hendrick under 19.5, and of course he finished 22nd. Yeah, that was... Anyway.
I only take overs on those. I literally only take overs because books don't know how to price the overs on them. But Superbook did a lot better this year than last year. Last year they had a bunch of guys at like 7.5, 8.5, 9.5, and I was like, I'm just gonna bet over on everybody.
Right? Yeah.
Because the lowest median I had, and of course if you're betting an over under, and it's at -110, then you just need to win 52.4% of the time to break even, 52.5% of the time to make a profit long term. So I look at like my median and then the 52.4% deviation from that in the distribution. And I say, okay, so the lowest 52.4% I had was Chase Elliott at 15th, right? Like a median of 15 essentially. And they were offering Joey Logano at 10.5, right? And I had Joey Logano at 16.5 for his median. It's just, they're still beatable. And I should have bet more of them, right? Like they had Denny Hamlin at 12.5. They had Blaney at 13.5. They had Keselowski at 11 or 12 or 13.5. I don't remember the exact numbers. Should have just bet all of them. I would have hit all four of those, the ones that I just named right there, and it's still not there. It's still not there. It's getting better from when it was in the single digits every time, but it's still not there. And Superbook does offer finishing positions for most, if not all races. If it's only the Westgate one, then that kind of sucks. But I think out of state one has also been offering for every race over under finishing position, typically after qualifying ends and stuff on a race weekend. They'll offer over under finishing position at Superbook.
This is the first time I've noticed it, but yeah, it was nice to see. But then again, some of these apps are hard to navigate. Particularly, like you and I went through it with Caesars, and I was trying to find stage winners. I could not find it. Like these apps, it shouldn't be that difficult to find shit you want to bet on. And some of them Caesars is pretty bad with hiding where everything's at. So
that was insane because it wasn't like on their normal way to navigate to it. So we had to like find an alternate way to navigate to it. Still like those Truex stage bets. They just obviously didn't work out, but really good thought process there with those picks. It just obviously didn't work out, like we said.
I think he was still top 10 in both stages. So he continues to get up there in the stages. You just need him to win. He was 9th in the first one, didn't make top 10 in the second. But that's going to get us to whine about it, though. We got some stuff to complain about this week, I believe.
Yeah, I think we do.
You want to go first, or do you want me to?
I mean, my whine about is going to be FanDuel. Like, I mean, it's just the worst. Like, I don't have a whole lot else to whine about. I guess. If I had to pick something, I mean, it's just it's all the same shit, like Fox's TV coverage, that kind of stuff. I don't have a whole lot else to whine about. I wasn't really upset about a whole lot that went on with the race weekend. Any of the drivers' comments or anything like that. I guess if I had to pick something to whine about, it'd be Joey Logano whining about Todd Gilliland moving up in front of him. We're racing, dude. You're mad that a driver took the lead and moved into your line while he's a manufacturer teammate. Like, that makes no sense. Why? He just whines. He whines to whine. I even tweeted you. I was like, we should have him whine about it because that's what he does. I know we whine about it because that's what we do, but Joey Logano is the biggest whiner in NASCAR.
And I feel like Ryan Blaney is starting to take after him too, with an attitude. Now that Ryan Blaney has that championship, remember how we would always say that
about the Gibbs drivers? Like they would complain about everything. Like I feel like it's transferring over to Penske. You're right.
Yeah, because Blaney kind of got an attitude a couple of times during the race on Monday.
His was more
straight up dumped his teammate in stage 2.
But because his teammates fucked him over on the pit sequence kind of thing. And, they had to, though. That was the thing. But he didn't understand that. If he understood it, I think it would have made more sense. But he's like, fuck that. I'm for me now. And
Yeah.
you know, I kind of like to see that. Joe Logano more was just like whiny. Like, he moved up in front of me and is leading. I'm like, okay. And
on lap 100, like,
yeah,
fuck
like
up.
While we're all trying to save fuel and ride around and like all Todd Gillen did was move up because he didn't want to get freight trained because he had 3 Toyotas lined up right behind him or something like that, or maybe it was 3 Chevys, I don't remember. But the idea was he was like, I'll move up here with my manufacturer, and Joey Logano's like, boo-hoo. And not only that, Front Row Motorsports now has that alliance with Penske, the Tier 1 Ford thing. Like, so you're mad that your actual essential teammate just decided to work with you. Okay.
Makes no sense.
I don't have a whine about it in the FanDuel stuff because the FanDuel stuff was so egregiously bad. I mean, I whined about it on Twitter. You saw, like everybody saw it.
Yeah.
I was, that shit made me mad. Not because they voided it, but because of their just dumbass rule. And it's a fucking terrible rule. I hope it gets changed soon because a lot of people like, and then my other whine about it is like, oh, we'll just rebet it. Well, I'm not going to rebet it if it moved from 40 to 28.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll just reparlay it. Well, I can't reparlay it if it's moved from 40 to 28. Well, it didn't affect me, so I don't care. Okay, but it affected a lot of other people, you know? It's a lot of, like, there's a lot of dumbass comments on Twitter. Like, oh, we'll just take the money that you parlayed and reparlay. Okay, but sure, maybe this one person can, but this other person can't because they've slashed the second leg of their parlay from 30 to 18 now, or what? I'm just making up numbers, but you get the idea. You can't just all of a sudden parlay. We'll take it to another site and parlay. What if they don't have access to the other site? I mean, it's just, it's bad, dude. Like, it's bad. That rule is bad. FanDuel did the right thing by voiding because that is their rule, but that rule is horrible. And then the resulting comments from it on Twitter are like cringeworthy. Just like, I call out dumb shit from FanDuel because it was dumb. The rule is dumb. And then people decide to like defend FanDuel, and I don't get it.
It's weird to me.
Anyway, what's your one about it? Because I didn't really have one outside of the FanDuel stuff, but then I thought about it. I was like Joey Logano, and then got back to FanDuel again.
Right. I have a few things in mind. Got some wine here. I believe our samples of wine and the new the brew kettle, the beer, has come out. So as always, Wine About It is presented by Luvabella Winery. Also, the brew kettle added this year to the sponsorship list. Check them out. We should be getting those beers here soon to check or to taste test. I can't wait. There's a chocolate peanut butter porter, and that is on. I love porters. I love dark beers, especially when they're on nitro. I love those. So can't wait to taste those. But presented by Luvabella Winery, this is Wine About It. I got the sweet rosé, which I've had before. Not my ultimate favorite, but it's still good. I like it. Forgot to chill it though, so this one's room temperature. But it's still gonna be good. Yeah, if you like sweet wine, this is good.
I do. I mean, I don't love sweet wine, but I do like it.
It's so smooth.
Yeah. So we're real quick before you do that. I told you I had a bet going on that I was sweating.
Yeah,
it won. So yeah, I can close that tab out now and feel happy about that. That's if you're watching on YouTube and you keep seeing me looking over left, I'm like checking out what's happening on this basketball game that I had a bet on. So we're good now. I'm 110% focused on Stacking Dennys instead of 97% focused on Stacking Dennys.
There we go. My wine about it is, I have one minor one first, and I've bitched about this sportsbook before, but I'm going to bitch about it again. Tipico, while they offer great lines, they do not take my action. They won't let me get 10 cents down. They won't let me get $1 down. They won't anything. They will not take anything. So I thought maybe after this was last year, by the way. So I thought maybe after the offseason, hey, maybe they'd let Jordan back on to bet again. So they had Truex top Toyota at 9-1 or 7.5-1 or something. So morning of Daytona 500, I logged in. I was like, okay, I'm going to try to bet this. I put $25 in my account. Tried to bet it. It got sent for approval. I went back, checked, and 20 minutes later, denied, of course. So I'm like, all right, withdraw. Send me my $25 back. Today, I get an email from their payments and withdrawal team. We will not be sending you your money right now. We need a picture of your ID front and back. We need a screenshot of your most recent Venmo transactions, blah, 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 blah. Once these documents are received, our review team will take a look and advise if anything else is needed. Fuck off. Just give me my fucking money. If you're not going to take my fucking bet, it's $25. Like, and the reason that I understand, like, these books, they don't like people that deposit and then try to withdraw right away without betting.
Mm-hmm.
But it's your fucking fault that I didn't bet. Like, you won't let me bet. Like, you literally won't. So what am I supposed to do? Just close my account at that point. Like, delete my account. Delete my entire account, because there's no point in me trying to ever bet with them again. So probably stupid on me for going in and trying to bet, knowing that they wouldn't have taken my action. But I figured maybe they would let me. So that's my part one, whine about it. Part two is the finish of the Daytona 500.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
obviously, I don't think it's
very
yes. I don't think it's going to be what you think it is, though. I'm not mad at NASCAR. I don't know. I'm not mad at NASCAR for the timing. I'm all right. I am,
because I've seen some videos where as soon as the car spins, they throw a caution. I'm like, I mean, it's instantaneous with the car spinning, or they've thrown a caution for brake smoke. They waited 300 feet or 300 yards, and they say go football field a second. They waited 3 seconds to throw a caution there. Anyway, go ahead.
I think, see, I thought it was fine. The amount of time they took to throw it. I did.
But I also don't think it's egregious. That's why I'm not whining about it. I remember sitting there watching it happen. Like, you got to throw the caution. 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 And then they cross the line. I'm like, they didn't throw a caution. They didn't throw a caution. And then the caution comes out. I mean, I said it like, my girlfriend was there with me, obviously. I said it like 4 or 5 or 6 times. She's like, okay. Like, I'm like, I know, but like, you have to. So they had to throw a caution. I'm sorry.
I think
that was a caution
part
worthy
of
crash.
Is they're trying to get better at maybe letting them race back to the line. That's what I want to believe on why they took so long to throw that caution.
Yeah, but you don't get a race back to the line if you cross the line and then you throw the caution.
Right. So I think they tried to keep it green, and we're going to try to keep it green if Chastain and Hendrick got going again. I think that's why it took so long.
That was never going to be a thing that got going again. I mean, there were cars wrecking everywhere.
Nah. Anyway, my actual whine about it is it deals with that, but it's the people that are on Twitter saying, well, Bowman was actually in front of Byron, blah, blah, blah.
No,
and
never.
So then I literally saw people that showed some grainy ass video that then showed, like, the angle showed Bowman kind of ahead of Byron and then showed the caution light go on. What it did was cut off the first caution light. So like the caution light blinks, it cut out the first one.
Yeah.
But then someone replied to these people and said, here's the video. Byron's clearly ahead of Bowman. And they respond with, they get their fucking tinfoil hats on here, which, don't get me wrong, I love a good conspiracy theory. I have plenty of conspiracy theories against NASCAR. But they sit there and reply and say, I don't believe that angle. Find me another angle. And it's like, what? Like, I saw Larry Mack reply to it today. I think Mike Joy replied to it saying, hey, here's the picture of when the caution came out. Byron's ahead of Bowman. Shut the fuck up. Like, these people are, and I understand you can have different camera angles on video and you see what you want to see, but man, that's just annoying, and that's my whine about it. Are those people that are thinking that somehow Bowman won that race when it was very clearly Byron?
No, Exactly. And based off the way NASCAR did throw the caution and all that stuff, I mean, it's clear as day Byron was the winner. I want to play a little mind game where who do you think would have won had NASCAR let it go green to that final lap? Because I think a lot of people are saying Bowman, but if you look right behind Bowman, I think it was LaJoie and Bubba had runs. Like, they probably would have pushed Bowman to the lead, and then one of them or both of them would have made a move under or around Bowman, probably eventually wrecking each other, and then the other one would have got through. So I think it was like probably LaJoie or Bubba wins that race if it stays green. Like, legitimately, I think LaJoie or Bubba wins that race if it stays green.
I first went to LaJoie, but I forget how much, if he got any damage from that wreck. So if they would have let him go, I don't know how much damage he actually got, but I'm with you. And what about Bell? You know, Bell was right there.
Yeah, I just think Bell's spot, and maybe I'm confusing Bell and LaJoie, but whoever was right behind Bowman, and then Bubba was right behind them. But I think it was LaJoie that was right behind him. I need to go find that photo again of like the finish. Let me see if I can scroll up here and find it. I know I have a photo of the finish somewhere. I'm just gonna keep scrolling until y'all. There it is. Oh, it was Bell that was right behind Bowman. I think Bell wins that or Bubba wins that. They had a run because they were going to push. Right, yeah, this is just the image, like the freeze frame image, and Bell would have absolutely pushed Bowman by Byron. I mean, Bowman already was going by Byron, and then would have pushed him. And of course, Bubba would have stuck with Bell to get around Bowman. And then could Bubba have made a move on Bell? I legitimately think that's how it would have played out. It either would have been Bell or Bubba had it stayed green. Or, you know, had NASCAR thrown the caution when they should have, it would have been a whole different story. We might be talking about AJ Allmendinger 80-1 winner. You never know. If we had a green-white checkered, or a few of green-white checkers.
Yeah, Bowman definitely, I think, would have got around Byron.
Oh, easily,
yeah. But man, what if Chastain makes that move, makes it work? I think he's winning this race.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, if he doesn't wreck, he wins it. But I'm talking about based off this wreck. Had NASCAR just let it stay green, who wins? And I think it would have been Bell or Bubba.
You know what sucks is.
Chastain's getting the caution early. No, yeah.
Chastain's getting the heat for that.
He didn't do anything wrong.
He did not do anything wrong.
Also, the William Byron where he caused that wreck with Joey and Keselowski and stuff. Byron didn't do anything wrong. Bowman shoved the shit out of him, knocked him down into whoever it was that started the wreck. I think it was Stenhouse or Keselowski or one of those guys.
Yeah, I forget that one. But so Cindric went and blocked LaJoie, pushed him below the yellow line, and that's what opened up the door for Chastain to make that move.
Yeah,
was those two kind of getting into it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how Cindric has any ground to stand on here of being mad. That actually kind of
Cindric wasn't mad at Cindric wasn't mad at Ross. He was just mad at Corey LaJoie for shoving the shit out of him and knocking him loose.
It was the final lap of Daytona. Like, what do you expect?
Right, I get that. But at the same time, if you make a bad push, like we're mad at Keselowski for doing the exact same thing LaJoie did. He just did it to, John Hunter Nemechek in lap 13 or whatever it was, lap 8. I don't know what the lap was, but you get the point. So it's the same thing. A bad shove is still a bad shove. And we could say the same thing about the Byron where he started like the first big one. That was actually Bowman shoving him, which got him loose into knocked him wiggly down into the car below him.
I don't think that this was a bad shove by LaJoie. I think it was a block by Cindric. LaJoie had a run and he couldn't have slowed down because Allmendinger was right on his ass. I don't think that was a bad push by LaJoie.
I think LaJoie even basically just admitted to it. Like, yeah, we're not friends. I don't give a shit. He never said Cedric was wrong.
Yeah.
I think LaJoie basically admitted to it. Like, it was his fault. But yeah, I had no idea what was. I mean, I guess that says, like, to me, that says if you have beef with Corey LaJoie, it sounds like there's been beef. And that says something about Austin Cindric to me, right? Like, you're racing for a Penske car and you have beef with Corey LaJoie, who races for Spire. And yeah, that tells me where you're running week in and week out, Austin Cindric.
Yeah, no shit. But yeah, going back, I said I wanted to talk about William Byron, and this could have been my whine about it. So his season win total line was set at 2.5 for the year. And when those first came out, that was the first one that caught my eye. I'm like, over, like by 1 million. Like, William Byron, he had his breakout year last year. I honestly think he's the best driver at Hendrick Motorsports. And obviously winning at Daytona doesn't really set the tone for the season, but he's already got one win down. He could go out and win again at Atlanta this weekend. And he won. He could have won. Did he win Las Vegas last year over Larson? Yeah. I mean, It would not be that crazy for William Byron to go 3 for 3 to start out this year.
No, it wouldn't be crazy at all.
But I'm irritated at myself for not betting his over win total now that he has this Daytona win. But also, I truly believe that he is the best driver at Hendrick Motorsports right now over Kyle Larson. And I'm not sure it's as close as people think it is. I think William Byron is poised to win multiple championships.
I think it's close. I would rate them pretty equal. I don't really have a choice between the two. But Larson's still the one that goes out and dominates more.
That's true.
He just does. It's he's always had trouble finishing, but he's the one that's dominating more. And I shouldn't say he's always had trouble finishing. I mean, Kyle Larson just a couple seasons ago won 10 races in the championship. When was the last time somebody won 10 races? Remember that? Like, we were talking about how amazing it was that he won 10 races. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10 races in 2021. And Kyle Larson won 1, 2, 3, 4 last year and 3 the year before. The guy has 17 wins in the last 3 years. That's a hell of a lot.
Another stat for you. We know we've always talked about Kyle Larson and his inability to finish out races or to finish races. 7 DNFs last year, 7 DNFs in 2022.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always been an issue of his.
Yeah.
Amazing enough, the 2021 year was only 2. So that was pretty wild. But no, it's always been an issue of his. He's so aggressive. He's so fast. He's so on the edge all the time, which is how he's so good, which is why his upside is so big. But it also comes back to bite him. Now, again, not all of these DNFs are his fault, but there certainly are a few that have, I should say more than a few, but like, when you have that many DNFs, some of them are on you for sure. There was the one where they like forgot to take the grate out. I think it was Daytona last year, like lap 1, and he has to come in and pit, or it was some race, one of those races. He has just like lap 1 just has to pit because his car isn't even running correctly. It was California last year. He finished 29th. So that actually wasn't a DNF, but you get the idea. Like, there have been mechanical failures. There have been other things that have happened to him. Bubba Wallace straight up, Bubba Wallace straight up right rear hooking him, like that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So it's a confluence of factors, but certainly Kyle Larson runs on the edge, as close to the edge as possible, and sometimes goes over the edge.
But yeah, that's just my small little note. Is I think this is a year that we're gonna see William Byron pull out ahead of Larson. I think Larson's kind of losing his edge with this new car, but I could be wrong.
I would
I've
disagree.
obviously been wrong before.
I think they're pretty equal.
Okay. And I think
they were both in the championship 4 last year, and Larson had the better race. So
that's true. Yeah. Like I said, this is just
I just think they're equal. I just think they're equal. And that's a testament to Byron to say you're equal to Kyle Larson. Like that is.
Oh yeah.
That is
100%.
a big testament to say that. And William Byron's one of the absolute top premier drivers in the series right now. It might be him and Larson as the 2 best drivers, period. Denny Hamlin's right up there for sure. But in the whole series, it may be, in terms of just raw talent, it may be Larson and Byron as the top 2.
Mm-hmm. And it'd be hard to argue that, I think.
I agree.
Yeah. But yeah, moving on, quickly before we get to Atlanta, you touched on it before. We got a question about it on Twitter. Front row is now a tier 1 with Penske Alliance. Is there any other team with an alliance like that? I feel like Spire or Kaulig teamed up with Trackhouse or something, but could be totally wrong. That was the question that we got. And I guess I feel like this is pretty big news that kind of just got shuffled out of the news cycle because it was Daytona week. But front row going to tier 1 is a pretty big deal. I mean, that's if Ford reemerges, like the way we saw RFK reemerge and have speed, this is only going to push front row and guys like Michael McDowell, Todd Gilliland to that next level to where they were already. I mean, McDowell and Gilliland have always been these sleeper picks. McDowell especially, he's a pretty consistent teen challenger for a teens finish. It wouldn't take a lot for that to go up to top 10s at his good tracks. So
no, not at all. Yeah.
I feel like
we're saying his good tracks, not even counting road courses, because we all know he's good at road courses.
Right. So I just feel like this little news was kind of swept under the rug, and I don't know how long that'll take to come into effect, though. I don't know the full specifics of the deal. Do you?
For the tier 1 stuff? Oh, it's already in place. It's been in place for a while. This is like they're already full-fledged tier 1.
Okay. I thought
certainly
it was
there will
future.
be certainly there will be no, they already are. They're already tier 1. Certainly there will be I saw stuff like this has been a deal for a good long while. It just got announced.
Okay.
So I'm sure they've already been working together, all that kind of stuff. But it's still going to take time to help Front Row Motorsports develop these strategies, to develop these pit crews, to develop this, that, and the other setups, whatever. But it's a massive leap forward already.
Yeah, I know that speaking of pit crews, Todd Gilliland's for Daytona, he had the youngest average age pit crew. And it was mentioned just how fast they were. And that obviously can play a big part on race days. So I wouldn't be surprised if Todd Gilliland competes for race wins at these super speedways. And Michael McDowell is maybe the road course racer this year, along with Reddick always is. But like if they're offering McDowell 14-1 at a road course, you pretty much just have to bet it. You have to bet it. Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, COTA is the 6th race of the season. We'll have Las Vegas, we'll have Phoenix, we'll have Bristol to evaluate the FRM performance. But based off of everything, I mean, it to me, the way I read it, the way I've seen the tweets about it and the discussion is it's been in place for a while. It just finally got announced before Daytona.
That makes sense. Okay. And that would explain why it wasn't such a big news story as well. If it was already.
Well, that and I don't think, I think maybe there's a lot of industry that didn't know, but they dropped that on purpose because they want to keep that secret until then.
Yep. Yeah. So moving on, we have Atlanta this weekend. Pseudo Speedway. We go from Daytona, unpredictable big wrecks, to Atlanta, where we also see big wrecks now that they have repaved, reconfigured this racetrack. What?
Oh, I was going to say, we didn't answer the question. Are there any other alliances like that? I think there's something between Trackhouse and Spire, obviously just because of Zane Smith, right? Zane Smith is racing for Spire, but with a signed to Trackhouse, so there's like a deal there. But I don't even think it's necessarily a full team thing. I think it might just be that kind of a thing. But there's always affiliate stuff. Like we know Wood Brothers is a Penske affiliate. We know Rick Ware Racing is a RFK affiliate, like that kind of stuff.
I want to say like Colleague, they get ECR engines.
Yeah.
Like there's that alliance. Like I feel like a lot of these are, like you said, they're there just right off the top of my head. That's where Trackhouse gets their engines as well as ECR. So
as does Spire.
Yeah.
So there's a whole thing there, but
no, Spire gets it from Hendrick.
Oh, that's a good point. But the whole point is I don't really read too much in that alliance stuff because Spire's still Spire. Trackhouse is still Trackhouse. The only difference, like to me, the difference is do you move up a tier, not do you have an alliance? Like I don't think suddenly Justin Haley is going to be badass because they have a Rick Ware Racing as an alliance with RFK. You know, they're still Rick Ware Racing. They're still not getting tier 1 Ford treatment, right? Like Rick Ware Racing is not getting tier 1 Ford treatment, but FRM is now. And to me, that actually says a lot about Stewart-Haas Racing. Like Tony Stewart's already like heads are going to roll soon here at SHR if things don't get better. And then you lose out tier 1 type stuff or add on tier 1 Front Row Motorsports. And that's another, dagger into the system there. It's a little worse even more for Stewart-Haas Racing. So, just one of those things where there's a little knock-on effect. Not just does Front Row Motorsports get better, but what does that do for Stewart-Haas Racing? And then, of course, Legacy Motors Club being essentially a Tier 1 Toyota team, right? So, because Toyota only has 8 full-time cars. So, yeah.
Yep. By the way, both Legacy Motor Club cars coming home with top 10s in the Daytona 500. John Hunter Nemechek finishing 7th, Eric Jones 8th, and the 2 Stewart-Haas cars in the top 10 at Gregson and Briscoe. So both those organizations got off to good starts. Like you said, that is one aspect that people definitely aren't paying attention to, though. With like when we have lower teams move up, it brings the higher teams down a little bit. And I think, like you said, that hurts Stewart-Haas.
Yeah.
Because they are the one organization that's kind of fringe right now, and they're just their driver lineup sucks. They've been in a downswing for a while.
Yep.
And other teams getting more competitive does not help Stewart-Haas Racing at all. So
I agree.
Full season, I think that's something to keep an eye on. Is how Stewart-Haas does. Are they really going to improve? Or are we, if we're looking still at the downturn, we need to take that into account. Not that expectations are high at Stewart-Haas, but but definitely take that into account. So, but yeah, moving on to Atlanta, the Ambetter Health 400. Like I said, or was alluding to before, there have been 4 races on this new Atlanta, this pseudo speedway. Obviously, anything before the 2022 season, you can go ahead and throw out the window. It is not applicable at all. Like not even close. Do not use it. We're looking at the last 4 races here only. Biggest question this week coming from Daytona, having that mindset for DFS, having that mindset for betting, is how similar of a mindset do you have to have at Atlanta, or is it different? So or one of the good questions we got here on Twitter for DFS purposes, and this is kind of what this is going off of what I was just stating. For DFS purposes, can you discuss the difference of variance on a super speedway where there's an expectation of half the field wrecking and how that compares to this new Atlanta? I would assume fading the chalk place differential plays is riskier at Atlanta. And I would say yes, because it is a tighter racing here at Atlanta. And while we do see wrecks, a lot of the wrecks that we saw last year were due to blown tires, were due to not actual racing mistakes.
And the first Atlanta race, the first Atlanta race. But I would answer your question differently. We're not going to see chalk place differential place.
You don't think so?
It's not Daytona where we're going to have Ryan Blaney in the back. They're going to qualify like normal, barring a rain thing. They're going to qualify like normal. There's no rain in the forecast this weekend, so you can go ahead and bet at FanDuel. But we don't see chalk start at the back at Atlanta. We just don't. The good cars start up front.
Do, though.
No, we don't. I mean,
did it get rained out last year? Because last July, Bubba Wallace, Alex Bowman, Christopher Bell, Austin Dillon all started 33rd or worse.
And how'd they do?
21st, 23rd, 26th, 25th.
Exactly. So you don't necessarily need to fade the chalk. That's back there. A, the chalk doesn't start back there, not as much. And B, they don't have as much success. My answer to this question is, let's look at the top 30 in scoring and see how many drivers in the 4 Atlanta races, the top 30 DraftKings point scores. The number of drivers that have started 30th or worse is 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the top 30 scorers over 4 races. Only 4 drivers starting in the 30s.
That's fascinating.
2 times the pole sitter has been in the optimal lineup.
That is, oh man. Yeah, Joey Logano in the first race last year led 140 laps from the pole.
And
also
then
won
Chase
the race.
Elliott in 2022. Second 2022 race. The race Corey LaJoie almost won. Led 96 laps, won the race, started on the pole. Pole sitters won twice. And led a lot of laps twice.
So depending on who's on the pole, is this suddenly a pick a pole sitter race?
Not necessarily. I'm just pointing out that we don't fade the pole here. We just play it like if we think they can lead a lot. Because Atlanta's different from Daytona and Talladega in that A, it's smaller, but B, track position matters way more. It's so much harder to get from the back to the front. It doesn't mean you can't
make moves here.
It's so much harder to make moves. Yeah. I think that'll change as the track ages, and the track already aged from year 1 to year 2. Wildly enough, Atlanta somehow, where it is in the world and the winters and all the other stuff they deal with, that track aged a lot from year 1 to year 2. And so I'm curious what it'll do here. I don't want to bet a whole lot on this. I don't want to DFS a whole lot on this. Like this is still one we don't know how the manufacturers are going to do here. That kind of stuff. Like it's a race I want to tread on carefully. Maybe live bet, I think, would be one of the best ways to approach this. But that said, just based off the 4 Atlanta races we have seen, stacking the back is not a strategy. Not a great strategy, but not a bad strategy. It's just kind of We got a lot of guys in the 20s that end up in the optimal lineup. We certainly get guys in the teens and in the single digits, but the 30s is often because these guys are either not the good guys are either not qualifying in the 30s, or if they are, they're still not moving their way forward.
One thing, talking about how qualifying is going to shake out and everything, where everybody's going to start. One thing I wish we could bet on would be manufacturer to win the pole. Mm-hmm. Just based on Daytona and how Ford looked there. And then you look at the 2 Atlanta races last year, the first race, top 8 qualifiers, all of them Ford. Second race, 9 of the top 11 Ford, including each of the top 6. Ford dominates qualifying at Atlanta.
Yes, but that was last year with the lower drag nose. I remember last year I was all over Ford's qualifying well at Atlanta, especially first Atlanta. But
doesn't their speed at qualifying in Daytona do the same thing?
But handling matters a lot more at Atlanta. So I'm actually curious if speed does matter too. But I'm curious if they sacrifice something on a different way by qualifying so well at Daytona. Did they are they sacrificing maybe a little bit of handling, which matters more Atlanta than Daytona. It still doesn't matter a ton, but the reason I liked the Fords last year at Atlanta, because the track's so new, right? And so raw speed matters in Atlanta. But when raw speed matters, it's one of those things like, okay, well, did Ford sacrifice handling because now Atlanta is becoming also a little bit more handling? I don't know. It could be just the Fords are just fucking crazy good at Atlanta. I don't know. I just don't want to bet qualifying on Atlanta, like, at all. Because I'm not going to look. I'm not going to count
at all.
I'm not going to count last year's Ford body as this year's Ford body because it doesn't make sense to. But I'm also not going to say because they were better at Daytona, it means they're going to be better at Atlanta, because there's differences between Daytona and Atlanta. I think once I see Atlanta, I'll feel better about should I bet Ford or not, or fade Ford at Talladega. You know what I mean? Because Talladega is just raw speed. Handling is not a thing.
Sorry, I'm looking at some stats here from the last 4 Atlanta races. As far as looking at winners here at Atlanta, on this new Atlanta, Joey Logano won the first race last year. Byron won the second race last year. In 2022, it was Byron winning the first race and Chase Elliott winning the second race, like you said, from the pole as well. How much does practice? How predictive is practice at this new Atlanta?
I don't know.
I was hoping you might remember. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't care. Like, I just don't have an opinion on practice in Atlanta. It's Atlanta, right? Like, it's still a drafting race.
Yeah.
If you get the right push in the right place in the right time, you can still win the race against anybody in the field. You could be Justin Haley in a Rick Ware car and win the race if you have the right push and you're in the right track position. That kind of stuff. Like, Corey LaJoie almost won an Aspire car 2 years ago, and not a current Aspire car, but like 2 years ago. And then Chase Elliott threw a block because he had to, to preserve the win. So it's still, if you get the right push, if you get the track position, anybody can win this. I'm not really worried about practice here. Speaking
of Justin Haley, he has 3 top 11 finishes in the 4 Atlanta races. And that Rick Ware car finished 7th with J.J. Yaley in it last July here in Atlanta.
I do like Justin Haley. I do like Justin Haley this week, more than I liked him at Daytona as far as DFS purposes, because we talked about this. You and I did a live show for DFS lines building, whatever. And I said I was like, I'm not as high on Justin Haley. I straight up X'd out Justin Haley in my lineups. He was one I had 0%. It worked out. I mean, obviously people were, victory lapping Justin Haley in the first stage, but it's the first stage. But I do think Justin Haley can be a factor in this race. Am I going to go crazy on Justin Haley in betting or DFS if I play? I haven't even decided if I'm going to play. I might, but no, I'm not going to go crazy. But I certainly will. If I play DFS, I'll definitely have exposure to him. And if I'm considering bets, I will definitely be considering Justin Haley bets. It's just a matter of what market at what price.
Yeah, so that's one thing. Early betting lines came out. I briefly went over and looked at a few. I saw nothing that I liked. I didn't see a single line that stood out to me that I liked.
Yeah.
Which is just...
I did for trucks. And I don't even do the truck series, but like sometimes Caesars for trucks will just misprice shit because it's a lesser.
What'd you hit for
series.
trucks?
These have moved, but I hit Caden Honeycutt 100-1. He's now 90-1 at Caesars. Caden Honeycutt is in a I need to look at the teams. He's in either a Thor Sport or a Nice car, or Nice truck, and I don't care. It's whichever one. Yeah, Honeycutt's in a Nice truck, and then I hit Connor Jones 150 to 1. He's now 125 to 1 at Caesars in a Thor Sports truck, right? That's the truck like Ty Majeski's in, Ben Rhodes is in, all the top contenders, and he's 150 to 1. He's in the Thor Sports truck. Like, okay. And then I bet their top fives as well. It was 9 and 11 for top five. It looks like they have moved to 6.5 and 7.5 for a top five finish. And I don't even follow the trucks. Like I do, but I don't. Like I don't consider myself a truck series or an Xfinity series expert. I create projections for them, which are just based off my machine learning model. And I think they're very accurate projections, but I don't have like the knowledge because I don't follow it as closely unless my boy Stephen Malazzi is racing. I watch him, I try to bet him, but I don't have like every knowledge of every driver. Like I'm a Cup Series guy and I'm an IndyCar guy. Those are my series. That's what I watch religiously for racing. And Trucks Xfinity for me is like, I like it, I enjoy it, I watch it when I can, but I don't sit there and try to look up every last piece of information on the Xfinity or Truck Series. You know, I wouldn't consider myself bad at those series. I've been profitable over the years. I just wouldn't consider myself an expert at those series.
Yeah, those are like Xfinity and Trucks. I'll watch them if I'm not doing anything. That's kind of where I sit at with like, I wasn't doing anything last night, so I watched the Xfinity race. Like, but I don't get too excited about it.
Same, 100% same.
I'm not like you. I don't even do projections for it because I
have to. I mean, that's my job. But
I understand that.
Yeah. So, and like my projections are just as good, just as accurate. It's just the difference is I don't have the same domain knowledge as I have for the Cup Series or the IndyCar Series.
Mm-hmm. So do you agree with, I'm looking at these lines. I'm looking at Superbook right now. Hamlin's the favorite, and then there's a line of cars at 12 to 1. Hamlin's sitting at 10 to 1. Then we got Keselowski, Elliott, Bell, Logano, Blaney, and Byron at 12 to 1. I can't say I disagree with any of that. One I'm kind of interested in would be Kyle Busch sitting there at 16 to 1, but it's not enough for me to bite just because of how fast that car was at Daytona. And that kind of catches my eye.
I will say, so I got a message from Jim Sonis, who works for FanDuel. And when I shit on FanDuel, I'm not shitting on Jim. He doesn't work for the sports book making side of things. And I'm sure Jim knows that if I disagree with a rule, it's fair game. But no, he's managing editor of digital media at FanDuel Research. So not the sportsbook making side of things, but was talking with Jim, and I kind of liked last week. I talked about it on a few different shows, different podcasts. I didn't end up betting it. It was one like I'm going to evaluate. And, I specifically said on the podcasts and the shows that I did last week, one was with Jim on his podcast, that I was looking at Stuart Haas race win for the Daytona 500 at 12 to 1. They're 16 to 1 right now at Caesars. And I do like that, especially knowing how well Josh Berry ran. Chase Briscoe was up there a bit. Like they had a lot of problems. Like Priest took a hit in the first 8 laps of the race or something and was pretty much fucked the rest of the race. Josh Berry looked good. Chase Briscoe looked just fine. It was one of those things where things didn't work out for Stuart Haas, but they looked fine. They like Gregson led at some point. I think at the first pit cycles or whatever, he was leading at one of those points. So 16 to 1 for Stuart Haas Racing to win. I kind of agree with Jim there. I think that's an interesting one for me for the Cup Series. And I don't have any other Cup Series bets right now, but would definitely shout out Jim for that bet.
Here's an interesting boost or whatever on Caesars right now. Parlay Austin Hill and William Byron winners. They won the 2 Atlanta races last year, 51 to 1 for that.
Interesting.
Probably not great value, but still kind of a little fun thing to bet right there. Throw $5 on it or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't hate that.
Going through here.
I'm just kind of looking through. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm looking through here. I don't see a ton.
I don't love Eric Jones 7-1 top Toyota. I feel like we'll be able to get it.
What about John Hunter Nemechek top Toyota 15-1? I mean, wasn't he the third Toyota at the Daytona 500?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Behind Bell and Jones.
Yeah, it just all works. Like, how do you position yourself? 15-1, I think is too long. Might bet that. I haven't yet, obviously. Just kind of eyeballing things. Man, you know me, like, if you're getting an upgrade in front row motorsports stuff, Todd Gilliland 28-1 top Ford isn't horrible, especially considering how he looked at the Daytona 500. Josh Berry 28-1. You know, like, these aren't horrible bets, but I don't know if I love them either, considering the way Atlanta is, where you get a Joey Logano leading a gazillion laps and winning the race starting on pole. You get a Chase Elliott leading a gazillion laps, winning the race and starting on pole. Atlanta's definitely a different beast than Daytona.
When did... Not that I'm going to make this bet, but I always thought... Never mind. I saw BJ McLeod listed under top Chevys 200-1. I always thought he drove a Ford, and I was like, when did he switch to Chevy?
Last year he drove a Chevy. Yeah, no, it was 2 years ago they drove a Ford, and last year they switched to Chevy.
Shows how much attention I pay.
Yeah, no, I would still never bet him top Chevy at pretty much any price.
I think Caesars and
Josh Williams top Chevy 60-1 is kind of interesting. Like, he's in a fucking Colleague car.
Yeah, he's in that 16 car.
Yeah,
this is going to be his first Cup Series start, right?
He ran the Clash and looked pretty good. It got fucked in the qualifying group thing.
I missed the Clash entirely. I had to work that night.
He got fucked in the qualifying bullshit that ended up happening. It's not anybody's fault. I'm not mad. I'm not whatever. He got screwed in the qualifying deal with how the Clash worked because of the rain out. He was fast as shit in this group, but he also drew the shittiest group and didn't end up making the Clash because he drew a bad group.
You know what's interesting? So
Josh Williams 60-1 top Chevy. Yeah, that's
yeah. No, honestly, it is. I'm excited to see his top 10 lines because he has three starts in the Cup Series. All of them were in 2022. He was 25th at Bristol Dirt, 25th at Indy Road Course, and then 31st at Charlotte Roval. Now, these don't sound great. These aren't earth-shattering.
That was with BJ
driving
McLeod's
that BJ McLeod car, doing that. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how fast he is now. And that might be an early week bet.
Here's the thing, like, he wasn't very good at those, but he was still better than Cody Ware.
Yeah.
No, I definitely don't mind that. I'm checking his Indy Road Course because I know he finished 25th there. He finished ahead of Ryan Blaney on the lead lap, ahead of Ross Chastain on the lead lap, ahead of Daniel Suarez on the lead lap at Indy Road Course that year. Now, I don't remember the exact potential incidents that people had or didn't have, so I can't say if Suarez, Chastain, or Blaney were damaged. I think Chastain. I remember Chastain had a bunch of damage because they were trying to like make the championship 4 or something. And then Charlotte. No, that was Charlotte Roval I was thinking of. So I actually don't remember Indy Road Course. And then Charlotte Roval, he finished ahead of J.J. Yaley and Loris Hezemans on the lead lap there. So right behind Todd Gilliland. But we've seen Josh Williams in other series. Like, he's done some good things with some underfunded teams. So 60-1 top Chevy is not too bad.
Yeah. I like you said, I haven't bet it. I don't think you've bet it, but
no, I have not.
Definitely. I'm interested to see once top 10 lines come out.
He's 8-1 for top 5 at Caesar.
Okay. So
I think that's too short. But
agree. 8-1, yeah. And I think it'll definitely be high, or better line elsewhere. Here's the thing, though. So obviously, long shots have a decent chance of hitting at Daytona. The thing with this new Atlanta so far is we really haven't seen a long shot win it.
right.
And not really come close. Allmendinger finished third last July. That's probably the closest, I would say. Is this still a bet the favorites type of race? Like, it's still going to come from probably, Byron sitting there at 16-1, 12-1. It's still technically a favorite at a super speedway. What do you think the chances are we see someone like an 80-1, like a Josh Berry, come and steal this thing?
Oh, I think it's possible. I certainly, we've seen Chase Briscoe, I think, win the pole for an Atlanta race a couple of years ago with Stewart-Haas, and Stewart-Haas hasn't really improved or anything. Yeah, I think it's certainly possible. I just don't think it's going to be, where we see something like Talladega, where an 100-1 has a really good chance. I think it's going to be it's certainly a chance, but it's going to have to come on kind of what Corey LaJoie did and more like a strategy play. If you remember the year Corey LaJoie almost won, they strategied him into the top 2 or 3 or 4 positions, and he was able to maintain that. He didn't move his way up into the top 4 or 5 in that race.
Right.
But
and that's
if you can strategy yourself into that position, you can maintain track position, because track position in Atlanta is massive.
And that's the most important thing. And it brings into account who has the good crew chiefs that play the strategy games.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to default again down to Josh Berry with Rodney Childers.
Yeah.
I like that pairing. I like Josh Berry a lot this week.
I do, we
haven't had practice or qualifying yet.
And I don't even necessarily like Josh Berry. Like, we talked about it on our preview episode. Like, Josh Berry, he's older for a rookie and that kind of stuff. Like, we don't love the direction Stewart-Haas is heading, etc. But in particular races, it doesn't mean we don't like him.
Right. Like I said, and you remember, I mean, we were always high on Harvick at super speedways and at Atlanta, this new Atlanta. It's the same car. He's driving that 4 car. It's going to have speed. I think this is the time to pounce on Josh Berry. Another guy that I can't wait to see.
How about this? Group G at Caesars. 4 cars. Hendrick, Haley, Zane Smith, and Josh Williams. And Josh Williams is plus 380. And all the others are plus 210.
Zane Smith's in that
Spire
car.
Haley's in a Rick Ware, and Hendrick's Josh Williams' teammate.
Yeah.
That's probably the best bet.
Yeah, gun to head, I'm betting that right now.
Yeah, I mean, they all should be much closer to
make a bet right now.
They all should be much closer to 3-1. Josh Williams was much closer to making it into the clash than Daniel Hendrick was, if I remember correctly. I need to look up the clash. Clash at the Coliseum. Report here. Starting lineup. No Daniel Hendrick, so Hendrick didn't make it. Qualifying results. Josh Williams out-qualified Daniel Hendrick by 9 positions, despite having a worse group to go out in. Like, we know that's okay, and we're going to talk about the 36 for 36, but that's why I picked Daniel Hendrick, because he sucks. So where does he suck the least at a super speedway? But anyway, Josh Williams plus 380 in Group G is a solid bet. He has probably the best chance of winning that group.
I think I might
him or Zane Smith might. I mean, Haley does too. Obviously, we like Haley here, but like this whole group is a 4-way coin flip, which means everybody should be plus 300. We're getting plus 380 on Josh Williams.
Yeah, I'm going to think about that a little bit more, but right now my gut's saying just bet it.
Yeah, mine is too. I haven't bet it yet. I'm just thinking like I kind of feel like it's a good bet.
Yeah. Any other tips you have for Atlanta when it comes to DFS or betting, especially coming right after Daytona? Because
so remember how I mentioned the pole sitter has been in the optimal lineup twice?
Yeah.
If we look at the rest of the top 10, it's not as good. In the top, there's again 4 races. So the top 20 in DraftKings points over 4 races, meaning around 5 per race, has only had one other top 10 starter. And that was Ross Chastain, who started 7th in the first Atlanta race in 2022. And he led a bunch of laps there as well. So the idea is you got to grab a guy who leads a bunch of laps if you're starting inside the top 10. So that still applies. The problem is who's going to lead the bunch of laps? We don't know. You know what I mean? It was, if we just sort by laps led, it was the pole sitters twice that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
It was William Byron in 2022 number 1 instead of Ross. Now Ross still did lead 42 and ended up in what would be considered probably an optimal lineup, but Byron started 12th. And then after that, there was a race, the 2023 second Atlanta race. The most laps led was 46 by a single driver, which was Eric Almirola. So it still does race. Yeah. Go ahead.
A lot of people had issues in that race, I think.
Yeah.
Like tires.
That and the first 2022 race, a lot of people had tire issues. Which was the race Byron won.
So I was looking right before you started talking about laps led, I was doing the exact same thing. I was looking at laps led, and I was going to ask you, we don't focus on dominators at Daytona or Talladega. I feel like we need to at Atlanta because 3 of the 4 races. We need to focus
on one dominator.
One dominator. Because 3 of the 4 races, 3 of the 4 races has had a driver lead 96 or more laps.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Which is and then, like you said, the other one was 46 with Almirola, but also the pole sitter. So pole sitter has led the most laps in 3 of the 4 Atlanta races. The pole sitter has led the most laps.
Yeah. So it's interesting that that's the case because we definitely have to consider the pole sitter. We have to consider place differential, but outside of whoever leads the most laps in Atlanta, the front of the field doesn't do a ton. Obviously, some can, but you still want to stack the teens and the 20s in this, and mostly the 20s, right? If I just go to the top 20 point scores at Atlanta races, it is it's not fair technically because of the number of laps in a race, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think it is. 7 out of the 20 started 20th or started inside the top 19, right? So I count like 20 as 20th or worse. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. So still more than half the field is starting 20th or worse in the top scorers. But once you get past that, then all of a sudden there's a 4, a 2, a 9, a 5, all that stuff. So it does get a little bit interesting in terms of starting position. But just wanted to point that out, that this isn't as much of the same as a Daytona or a Talladega. But still, as far as like the very front, it's kind of the same outside of find the dominator, the one dominator.
Right. I'm stupid, by the way. Remember I asked you how important practice is at Atlanta?
Yes,
there is no fucking practice at Atlanta.
Well, there you go.
They don't practice at Atlanta.
Well, that shows how stupid I am too, because I didn't think to be like, there's no practice.
Yeah, because I went back to last year. And I wanted to look up practice speeds. And I was like, there's no practice speeds. Like, maybe they got rained out. Then I'm like, shit, they don't practice at Atlanta. And then looking up this weekend's schedule, there's no practice. There's just qualifying it on Saturday morning. So,
yeah.
My bad.
Is what it is. I didn't catch you.
Yeah. All right. You got any other tips for Atlanta? It's hard for us to do anything right now because with Monday race, lines are a little bit slower to come out, and
yeah, it is a little harder.
Can't really give anything.
BetMGM does have odds out as well for outrights only. I'm gonna give a shout out to BetMGM. They've been putting out some low holds and some good odds so far this year, not just for the Clash, but the duels, not just for the 500, but for the duels and the Clash as well. So something to keep an eye on there. The question is just how much money can you get down there? It's always the struggle, but in Vegas, for me, it's not too bad. And Vegas has gone to the all other states model. It used to be BetMGM Vegas was different from BetMGM all other states, but now BetMGM Vegas uses the same, or Nevada, I should say, uses all the same as the other states. So if I see a BetMGM line, it's the same one that's available to me. I don't have to drive over to Arizona or do anything like that. So get a little shout out to BetMGM there for some solid lines. Ricky Stenhouse 45-1. I mean, remember he was leading Atlanta and lost a tire or something in the very first Atlanta race. I don't hate Ricky Stenhouse 45-1.
Yeah, a couple things I've noticed here looking at BetMGM. One is the Stenhouse line. Two is they have Bubba at 22, which is a little bit longer than Caesars at 20. They have Jones at 30. They have Josh Berry at 35, whereas everybody else has him at 80.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Did you see Greg Mathern's tweet? Betfred had John Hunter Nemechek at 9-1.
that was some bullshit. I think they meant 90.
We've heard of fat fingers. I think someone skinny fingered that one and forgot a zero.
Exactly. Straight up forgot a number there. We gotta wrap up the podcast soon. My beer box is empty.
Beer box.
I have some wine upstairs. It's not Luvabella wine, but I have some wine upstairs. I'm still, like I said, we're waiting on the good stuff from our sponsor here to arrive, and we'll definitely taste test it all.
Yeah, it should be coming this week, I believe. I think it shipped today.
For you or for both of us?
I think both of us. I have to double check.
I haven't seen anything. And that's not a bad thing. That's just I haven't seen or heard anything. I'm also really bad about checking messages, emails, whatever. Like I'm literally the worst at it. So it's possible I missed something.
Yeah. We're going to get to 36 for 36. New segment this week.
Yes.
Started on Twitter. You DM'd me, I think, about 20 minutes before the race on Monday.
Exactly.
And you're like, hey, we need to play this game and get it started.
Well, because,
so we can do it
Steve Luvender tweeted it out about 20 minutes before race time.
Yeah. Like, how do you just tweet it out then? But anyway. So if those who don't know, this game, 36 chartered cars, you can pick them once each per race this season. So 36 races, you pick all 36.
Yeah. One time the whole season.
Yep.
So you got to kind of plan it out.
Yeah. So first week, Nick went with the number 31 of Daniel Hemrick, scored 21 points. I went with the number 15 of Riley Herbst at Daytona. He scored 13 points. So that is the total right now. And we're on to week number 2, Atlanta. Let me pull up I already know who I'm going to pick, but I need to look at the entry list. See, I was going to go Josh Williams, but he's in the 16, and I want to save the 16 for
an Allmendinger road course.
For an Allmendinger road course.
Yeah.
Shit. Good thing I double checked that. Man. '78's not a chartered car.
No.
I'm gonna do something I might regret, but I'm gonna stay on the Justin Haley train, and I'm gonna go 51. Justin Haley for Atlanta.
For me, it's between Justin Haley and Corey LaJoie, and I don't know which one I'm going to go. So I'm literally going to go to random.org. And number 1 will be Justin Haley, and number 2 will be Corey LaJoie. And I'm going to click generate. Number 2. So I'm taking Corey LaJoie as my 36 for 36 at Atlanta. If we look at LaJoie last year, or last 2 years even, just in the next gen era, his only top 10 finishes have come at Atlanta, Talladega, and Daytona. So I have to use him at one of these, right? Like, that's just kind of where you have to. And so I have no issue using it on Corey LaJoie here. Definitely like, and then Daytona, of course, yesterday, or a couple days ago. Yeah, yesterday. My days are all confused. So you kind of just have to use them in the super speedway track. So I'll take Corey LaJoie, but was 100% leaning Justin Haley going into this, and then decided when I thought about it more, maybe I should take Corey LaJoie. Now, Jordan, we should talk about our strategy for Daytona, because we didn't get to. But for me, Daniel Hemrick sucks, right? Like, he's not a good driver. If we look at Daniel Hemrick, he raced for Richard goddamn Childress Racing in his only full-time season in Cup. And he had 2 top 10 finishes. One was at Talladega, which is a super speedway. The other was at Pocono, which, kudos to him for that. Congrats on your only other top 10. He just sucks. And now he's in arguably worse equipment than Richard Childress Racing. I would say almost definitely worse equipment than Richard Childress Racing. As much as Colleague does a great job, I don't think they are RCR. So you kind of just have to play him at the super speedways. Now, yes, he did have a 9th at Auto Club Speedway in 2022, but remember what happened in that race? There was like 8 billion restarts at the end, and everybody was wrecking. It was one of the first, it was the second race in the next gen car. People were losing wheels left and right. Tyler Reddick's dominating the race, popping tires, and we're not in that situation anymore. So to me, my best chance at a top 10 with Daniel Hemrick is at one of these super speedways. And I actually was going to guess when I made my pick and obviously notified you, and we all had short notice. I just had a gut feeling you were going to take Riley Herbst, and I wanted to differentiate myself from the Riley Herbst. Now, obviously, I'm differentiating myself from Justin Haley this week, but it's only because it was a coin flip between Haley and LaJoie, and I literally flipped a coin. But I chose Hemrick over Herbst just because I wanted to be different from you.
Yeah, that was my mindset. Similar mindset for Daytona. It's such a crapshoot. I'm not going to waste any big name driver at Daytona. And Herbst, I liked Herbst overall. I like that quasi Stuart Haas car that he was racing. So yeah, and same mindset here. I don't want to waste any top tier talent. My initial gut, but when I was thinking about this earlier tonight, who I was going to go with Hocevar, because I like the Spire cars. Hocevar or Zane Smith, but I kind of want to see how they get better throughout the year.
Exactly.
So I'm going to save them, and that's why I'm sticking with Justin Haley.
Hocevar had some solid results last year. I know he ran the 42 mostly, but like that kid is, as much as he loses his brain a lot of the times, he's still really talented. We have to admit that, right? Like we always talk about it. He's younger Ross Chastain. He has a lot of upside. So I didn't think it made a lot of sense to use Hocevar at the Daytona 500. I wanted to get Daniel Hemrick out of the way. I don't want to think about him the rest of the year.
Yeah. You know what's going to be interesting though with this game is, I mean, we're obviously going to have to start using the top tier guys, and we're making these picks on Tuesday without seeing practice, without seeing qualifying. And we're going to be locking those picks in with top tier guys that we're not going to be able to use the rest of the year before seeing any of that. This is going to get really interesting next week, starting with Las Vegas, on what our strategies become.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Gets super interesting at this point.
I
can tell you right now, I don't know, because I don't know how these cars are going to run at an intermediate track. especially with the new Ford body, the new Toyota body, all that stuff. I don't fucking know. And maybe the safe play, like, I have no problem talking strategy with you because while we're competing against each other, we're also trying to help people. If you're playing this game yourself or just whatever, I feel like Chevy is the safe pick because we know Chevy right now at this point. So Chevy is arguably a safe pick, but then their strategy comes into play. They're an upside pick with Ford or Toyota driver.
So yeah, and here's the mindset. Looking at these 36 cars, yeah, we have 2 Atlanta races, 2 Talladega races, and 2 Daytona races, and then obviously road courses, which we're going to save. I'm going to save Chase Elliott, Michael McDowell, Tyler Reddick for road courses.
Of course, you have to.
And make those. But we still have guys like Austin Cindric, Austin Dillon, the lower tier guys.
Save Austin Cindric almost though for a road course as well because he's terrible everywhere else.
But then again, he road courses he's shown basically super speedway-esque finishes where he's either really good or really bad. Like
yeah.
So this is gonna be an interesting game going throughout the year and who you save to the end. Who you save to the end.
Like, obviously, it's one of those, like, Kyle Larson, you can play him anywhere, but where is the best place to play him? Similar for, like, a Denny Hamlin or Martin Truex Jr. or William Byron. Like, where's the best place to play these guys? And that's where you need to kind of plan that out.
And I like to – so, like, my strategy with a game like this is I like to be able to see a race or two prior to, like, really getting aggressive. So I'm probably going to be pretty conservative with my Las Vegas pick. But here's the thing. After Atlanta, we go to Las Vegas, we go to Phoenix, we go to Bristol, and then we go to COTA. Intermediate track, short track, or flat short track with Phoenix, short track at Bristol, and then road course. 4 completely different track types entirely. And then we go to Richmond, which is, a reverse Phoenix, but it's also super high wear.
Yeah, exactly. It's not Phoenix. It's just not.
Yeah.
Martinsville might be the first one where we kind of like feel a little more comfortable.
This is going to be a fun game. I like this.
It is. It is. It's interesting.
Yeah. So Atlanta picks 36 for 36 picks. Justin Haley for me, Corey LaJoie for Nick. And we are on to our picks to win.
Jordan, you're done with Rick Royal Racing for the year. Just pointing that out.
I am.
That's a good feeling, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yes it is.
So there's always that.
Get the shit boxes out of the way early.
Yeah, exactly.
Going on the other spectrum of things, we're picking a winner now because we know Justin Haley ain't winning this race. So, who is your pick to win? Ooh.
So it's Atlanta, and I'm gonna look back at just the Atlanta winners, right? So who has won Atlanta in the last couple years, the last 2 years, the next gen era? And we know, obviously, Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, William Byron, and William Byron. Those aren't exactly small names, right? Some pretty household names. Look who's finished second. Daniel Suarez, Ross Chastain, Brad Keselowski, Ross Chastain. Lucas finished third. It gets a little more interesting there. AJ Allmendinger, Kurt Busch, but it was in a 2311. Christopher Bell, Austin Cindric. So some of these guys still can win. Daniel Suarez is not your race winner every week type guy, but he finished second. AJ Allmendinger is not your win every week unless it's a road course or potentially a super speedway. Kurt Busch later in his career, similar. Like he would win one race a year. Austin Cindric, we get that. Look at fourth place. Corey LaJoie, Eric Jones, Michael McDowell. Those aren't guys winning races every week. Look at and Daniel Suarez. Fifth place, Corey LaJoie, Kyle Busch, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney. It's like a little more household names. But you get the idea. A lot of guys finishing in the top 5 aren't the most household names, yet the winners have been household names. But I think there's still a decent chance that at some point, one of these lesser household names is going to win. And the guy who's finished second twice here and who almost won the Daytona 500 is Ross Chastain. So he's my pick to win.
You know what's funny?
Is he your pick to win too?
No, so I picked him last week.
Right.
I picked Chastain last week. And I had one guy in mind the entire time. I didn't care if you picked him as well. I was going to pick him. And it's the guy that you picked last week. I think Byron goes back to back.
Yeah.
And wins for a third time at Atlanta.
We just flipped our picks from last week. I love it.
Yep.
But I will say, I think like there's a lot of good picks here, like Jones, Stenhouse, whoever the fuck. I don't care.
I think Logano has to be up there.
I agree with Logano very strongly.
Strong as that car was at Daytona,
Keselowski has to be up there.
I could see Logano dominating this race again, especially after he did
Bubba. Honestly,
this
I like
race
Bubba
last year.
I think this is a good Bubba race too. Yeah. I don't know. I felt like going with Ross because it was after seeing Daytona, after knowing he's finished second twice here, kind of was calling my name. He feels, I wouldn't say due. It's the wrong word to use, but
he's in the Moose car this week as well, which I feel like he runs better with.
Man, you're like Mr. Paint Scheme guy.
Oh, hell yeah.
I don't pay attention to any of that shit.
I did the math on Auto Owners Truex.
I know you did.
100% fucking true.
I did the same math with I did the same math. I think it was Truex with day versus night races, and he was statistically significant in one versus the other. I can't remember which it was because it was like 4 years ago. But there have been some really wild Truex splits, whether it's paint schemes or day night or this, that, or the other.
Yep. No, I love looking at stuff like that, especially the Truex thing. It's fun to me. But another thing is the car that Christopher Bell usually runs, and some of the other JGR guys, the Reesers or Reese, whatever.
Yeah.
That car always performs like shit. Always. Truex runs it sometimes. Always performs like shit.
I don't even know. Like, I don't care. I don't know. I don't. That's never been a thing to me.
I remember stuff like that. That's just how my brain works.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I still like the Indy cars. You know, they pretty much, barring a couple races a year, depending on certain situations, they run the same thing all year. And that, reminds me of the good old days. I was watching the 2010 Daytona 500, and Kelsey and I were like, man, look at all these like just brand name sponsors that just ran that car every week all year. Like, it was amazing. We're so far away from that. It's wild.
Yeah,
even 2010. That's not that long ago. Like, that's in the digital cell phone, almost Twitter. I mean, technically Twitter age. Twitter started in 8 or 9, I think 7, 8, something like that. Because my first Twitter account was made shortly after. Like, that's still pretty damn. Like, Keselowski in the 2012 Daytona 500 was tweeting about the jet dryer, and I thought, everybody thought Chris Buescher was going to win because there was another jet dryer incident on Monday.
Yeah. Yep.
That was pretty funny. It's just one of those things.
I think the drivers, any of them that are closest to running the same paint scheme every week would be Alex Bowman in the Ally car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Denny Hamlin with FedEx.
Obviously Denny Hamlin. Yeah.
Kyle Larson with Hendrick cars.
Yep.
That blue and silver one. And then I'd throw Logano in there with Shell. I feel like he runs
Logano's
that
pretty hefty on the Shell, but it's not the same as like Hamlin with FedEx or some of these other guys.
I would say Bowman Ally is probably number one. If not Hamlin.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna have to like go and do all the math.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't deal with all that, but I do miss the days of just like primary sponsor.
All the same.
If not 36 races, 34 or 5 of them, the special 1 or 2 off deals. I do miss those days. Jimmy Johnson Lowe's every week was just a thing.
Yep. I was at a flea market last week, and there's a bunch of older like 164th model cars. Yeah. And it was fun just seeing all the sponsors, like similar to watching the race.
Man, I still have a gift for you. I haven't given it to you. We need to hang out again soon. When are you coming to Vegas?
I got flight credit to use. I need to find a time to get out
Let's
there.
say I have a gift for you when we're talking about diecast and shit like that.
Yeah, I'll have to get out there.
It reminded me. Come to the Vegas race. No, I'm just kidding.
Don't tempt me. I've done that before. I've been like, I want to go to Vegas, and then next day I'm on a flight. So
yeah,
flight.
No, I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. I'm looking forward to kicking your ass in the 36 for 36, but I'm also looking forward to actually hanging out with you again.
Yeah, you probably are going to kick my ass in that. I don't do well in those.
I don't plan
stuff
this shit
like
out
that.
though. Like for NFL Survivor, I used to, but this I'm not planning out. I'm just kind of winging it every week. We're having fun.
Yeah. All right, that's going to wrap us up this week. Stacking Dennys. We got Atlanta coming up before we get to Vegas race. So go William Byron at Atlanta. Let's go 2 for 2 to start the year. And if not William Byron, let's see Chastain take it. So
yeah, or let's see Josh Williams finish top Toyota. Top Chevy.
That'd be awesome. Be even more impressive if he was top Toyota.
What the fuck is it? What? Okay, now I'm curious what his odds to winner.
I saw 150 to 1.
Yeah, if he's top Chevy, like there's non-zero chance he's winning this race. Corey LaJoie almost won this race. All right, well, something to consider as we sign off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. See you, everybody. Good luck this weekend. Hopefully we get some more winners this week, and we'll be back next week to talk about Vegas.
See y'all.